In this video, I'm going to show you my thought process behind kitchen organization and how I organize my workspace. Kitchen layout, available storage, size, and appliances are all sort of things that make each kitchen space unique. And with each individual space comes individualized ways to keep things sorted. All said, this is not a step-by-step exact guide on how and where to put your stuff. What it is more of a overlook on the tools, processes, and ideas that I utilize to keep my workspace clean and efficient, with some quick and easy tips and takeaways that you can, take and use in your kitchen. Speaking of clean, I made a video all about deep cleaning in the kitchen, so I will post that above if it tickles your fancy. Check that out. Let's get started. Getting organized probably means different things to different people. To me, it really just means reevaluating what's going on in my kitchen. Like, what do I have available? What do I need to restock? Are things where I think they should be? What needs to be tuned up to make my life easier when cooking? These are all questions I ask myself. And like so many other spaces that we use and work from often, the garage, the work shed, office, or anything, it really comes down to controlling the chaos that comes from daily use. A big category in terms of organization in the kitchen is storage, both for food and equipment, so we'll start with food. You might recognize these little guys from ordering takeout or buying cooked food from your local grocery store. These are called deli containers, or delis for short. When you hear a cook or a chef say, "grab the deli," or "put it in the deli," they're referring to these containers. One of the biggest tips I got from a mentor of mine was to adopt the use of these deli containers in my home kitchen. Delis are affordable, convenient, and expendable, though I do recommend cleaning and reusing them as long as you can before they start to discolor or just turn gnarly. Deli containers are all uniform, so they store super well too. They come in different sizes, so there's a deli pretty much for every situation. Freeze them, microwave them, use them to organize your prep. If you don't use them already, the Humble deli container is going to be the Pippin to your Jordan. And these days they come microwave safe and BPA free, so yeah, that's cool. Moving on, I love glass jars and have since I was a kid. There's just something about them. I don't know. I'm a jar guy. Jar guy for life. These jars have been around for decades, but have really become mainstream in the age of the food blogger, and for good reason too. There's a bunch of great brands out there, but for the sake of the video, I'll refer to these as mason jars. Like delis, mason jars come in all shapes and sizes, each great for different things. They're affordable, you can buy them at any decent grocery store, and they come in packs of like 20. Which you probably won't need, but you can always repurpose them. I know for a while there, my girlfriend and I used to use them as like drinking cups. I like to have at least a few of each size around for different reasons. These are my go-to jars for making marinades, vinaigrettes, or like pickles. Compared to a deli, they seal better and last longer so long as you don't drop them. Along with your glass jar and deli game, you should take steps to strengthen your regular container game. Do yourself a favor, ditch that plastic plague of mismatched Tupperware bottoms and lids scattered all over the insides of your cabinets. Instead, invest in a few, not dozens, of high-quality glass reusable storage containers. These containers will fill the void that delis and mason jars just can't fit. I mean, who wants to store leftover lasagna in a mason jar? Not me. But I mean, that does sound like a pretty fire Pinterest post. Who needs overnight oats when you got overnight Zan? I prefer see-through containers so I could see what's going on inside simply by opening the fridge and peeping in. These can be pricey, so you don't need to buy them all at once. Just buy some every so often, and before you know it, you'll have a set. Next, squeeze bottles. These are game changers. I like to use them to store vinegars that I use to finish dishes or garnish. I also use the larger squeeze bottles to store cooking oil that I use often for quick and easy access. So that's how I like to store a lot of the food stuff that I keep. What about gear and equipment? Alright, let's talk about the elephant in the room, this big shiny chrome thing that I shoot the intro and outro portions of my videos in front of. This is my kitchen rack. It seems like a big mess. Yeah, organized chaos. When I first moved into this apartment, I knew that there was going to be some storage issues. Luckily, the space was almost perfectly laid out to fit this big boy. It's highly unlikely that you have one of these things in your kitchen, but the strategy that I use to organize my things on this beast can carry over to any cabinet space in your kitchen. Starting from the way bottom, I have a few of these bins full of stuff that I'm comfortable storing on the ground, i.e. no food. Sort of a bunch of miscellaneous tools. An outstanding tip here is to use bins to organize loose items, especially smaller components for larger pieces. Bins are great for keeping track of the little things. Moving to the lowest shelf on the rack, this is where I like to keep my larger, girthier items. Things like my rice cooker, stand mixer and its parts, Cambro containers, extra cutting board. I don't need quick and easy access to this stuff, so it lives out of immediate sight. Which leads me to my other tip, to store things that don't get daily use out of the way. Save the primo spots for easy access for everyday tools. Moving up a shelf, we run into the majority majority of my cookware. This shelf houses all my pots, pans, roasting trays, and mixing bowls. Immediately seeing this leads me to our next tip, which probably sounds like common sense, but remember that if you can stack it, stack it. If you aren't already stacking things in your kitchen, like pots, pans, containers, etc., you should start because it saves a ton of space. This is why I love using commercial style hotel pans. They're affordable, come in any size you need, and stack harder than William Oral. Moving up a shelf, we have some more food storage materials, some cleaning gear, like randomly my scale and some baking things and an induction cooktop. Yeah, the shelf is pretty miscellaneous, but besides the Bannetons, I use what's on it almost every day, so I keep it up top. On the left is where I hang my strainers, keep my tape, and pocket knife. I stash little knives around my place, sort of like in a non-Michael Myers way, to keep me from using my good knives in improper ways, like opening Amazon packages. Alright, so next we have my spice shelf. Spices can be tricky because there are so many little containers to keep in order. Labels and small mason jars are your best friends here. We'll talk about labels in a minute, but these small mason jars can fit a bunch of spice, and they're see-through so you know when it's time to buy some more. And not to mention, it looks super clean when everything looks uniform. I use these mini 3-step shelf things to make my spices easier to find. Visibility is everything with spices, so if your space allows for it, do your best to work your spices around so that you know which spice is which at a glance. This goes for everything, not just spices, but knowing exactly where things are will make your life less stressful in the kitchen. And finally, on the top shelf, I have more clear storage bins for bulk food items. It's super awesome that these containers are clear, especially when they're up high like this. It helps to know what's inside, no grabbing and guessing. And this next tip might be the golden rule of organization, but store like things with one another. This goes for both food and gear. For food, think dry goods with dry goods, flours with flours, and other baking stuff, canned food with canned food, you get the idea. In terms of gear, think pots with pans, and similar gadgets near one another. I'd just like to mention knife storage and organization real quick. If you like sharp knives, 1, you need to sharpen them. 2, you need to store them in a way that allows for them to keep their edge. There are plenty of ways to store knives properly these days. Cork drawer inserts, wooden knife blocks, and knife magnets like this one here are all good options. So long as your knives don't clink into one another, then you're Gucci. Just never throw your good knives in the dishwasher. That's a surefire way to dull them out. Onto the next big category. Keeping things labeled is the difference between thawing out the frozen bolognese from 2 weeks ago or that neglected chili from last year's Super Bowl. The way things begin to look once frozen can throw somebody off, so label your food and make sure to keep a proper inventory. A simple and effective way to do this is with some tape and a Sharpie. I prefer this blue painter's tape because it's easy to take off containers and sticks pretty well. To take your labeling to the next level, I recommend a label maker. This tool is completely optional, but it does make your food look a little easier on the eye. Come on, mason jars and matching labels? Again, dope, but totally optional. Some good tape and a Sharpie get the job done just fine. Labeling isn't just important to keep yourself organized, but I promise, especially if you cook often, whoever you're living with will be grateful that they can identify what the hell is in the fridge. More importantly, if you don't want anyone touching your stuff, all you have to do is come up with a creative, super messed up label. Moving past labeling, before you give a tool a new home, think of where you are going to use it most. For example, you shouldn't have to walk across the kitchen to grab a spatula to cook your eggs. Maybe keep that spatula next to the stovetop. Shout out to Mama for teaching me that one. Okay, so the next point I like to call controlled purging. And no, I'm not talking about learning to throw up with accuracy. What I mean is cleansing your pantry, fridge, freezer, and cabinets of anything that you don't use or haven't touched in the past few months. I highlight the word controlled because I tend to go a little ham with this, and oftentimes my girlfriend has to pull back the reins. Now, I'm definitely not saying throw everything away, but really ask yourself, am I going to use this at all in the next 1 to 2 months? If so, keep it. If not, make a donation pile or just throw it away if it's bad. If you come across an item that's tough to part ways with, a little tip is to store it somewhere where you are likely to see it often. I find that it helps remind me to use it quicker than it would be if I were to just toss it in the back of the pantry and forget about it again. Okay, so that was a lot of information. I hope there were some solid takeaways that you can take and apply in your own kitchen. Wow, got my cleaning done, got my organization done. It's Friday, time for a beer. But before I go, I'd like to thank all of the newcomers coming from TikTok or elsewhere. Welcome to the show, welcome to the party. Is it a party? And to everybody else, muchas gracias for continuing to support and watching my videos. I really hope these videos are entertaining, informative, and that you're actually getting something out of it. Should be a two-way street here. And if you dug the video, please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Also, quick plug time. If you like what I'm doing on here, I post my day-to-day stuff on my Instagram story like all the time, so check out my Instagram account if you want. Toodles, and I will see you next week.